It's Thursday. It's the afternoon, 1 p.m. here in the Pacific, which is California time zone. And we are going to be talking with Rob Casey today. First off, though, Supconnect, thank you so much for allowing me to do this. My name's Kristin Thomas, and it's been a blast. So I think we're on about our 14th interview live. These are also saved, so you will be able to watch this or tell your friends about it if you didn't get a chance to watch it. So Rob is here. I'm going to invite him in just a second, but first I just want to say a little bit about him. Seattle area, knows everything about water in the Pacific Northwest. Was in very early with, I believe, the first book that was really about stand-up paddling very broadly, and we're going to talk about that definitely. That was about 2011, so probably before a lot of you started stand-up paddleboarding. But also Salmon Bay Paddle is involved with every aspect from instructing to guiding. They do expeditions, they have race series, anything. If you are in the Pacific Northwest, that's a great resource for you. Rob also started something called the Professional Stand-Up Paddle Association, a certification program to help others become instructors in the SUP world. So we're going to talk about that too. So I'm going to work the magic of Instagram, hopefully, and if I can find him. Oops, where'd you go? I did see that he's on there. Rob Photo, if you could request to go live, that should show up for you, and then I can find you. Because right now you're not on that list. There should be a button for you, Rob, that says request to go live. See if you can find that. He's right there, but I want you to see his face and hear his voice. That is important. Hey, while we're trying to connect here, remember that we do have a Facebook also. Connect live discussions. So join us on Facebook too, and we're going to do some follow-up. So Salmon Bay Paddle, Rob, I invited you to, and if you would click that button, you should be able to come in and join me on the screen. Isn't tech fun? Monster and Sea. How are you guys? Oh, that's so fun. Oh, and I think that's Rennick. Great. So we've got definitely some people from the Pacific Northwest. Well, if any of you know Rob, text him and say, through Salmon Bay Paddle. Tell him to click the join button. Hi. I know Monster and Sea so well, but I actually don't know which of you is behind the actual Instagram name. Hi, Reddit. So good to see you guys, even though I can't actually see you. There we go. Connecting, yay!
Yeah.
There you are, we found you.
Yeah.
Troy.
Vice
We
versa.
got Troy and Rennick and some of your other Pacific Northwest buddies are on already. Ready to chat. So you probably didn't hear, I just gave a little bit of an introduction. I did ask a question on one of the posts about if they knew what kind of wave, the picture that advertised today's event. So Joel Yang says it's a tug wave. Was he correct?
No, that's a freighter wave.
Freighter wave. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, but that is definitely a different kind of wave to surf. But you are involved in so many aspects of stand-up paddling, which is fantastic, and really an authority because you go way back before stand-up paddling and being a Pacific Northwest water junkie expert. What should I call you?
Just say I'm pretty much passionate for the paddling, you know. So
Absolutely.
love what you do.
So I did mention that you wrote a book in 2011, which was the first kind of very expansive book that's about all aspects of stand-up paddling.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I own that thing. I couldn't find it. I meant to pull it out. I hope I see it still for sale, so you can still buy it on Amazon, or maybe you have a preferred place. In that Facebook group, I put links afterwards, so I'll make sure to mention it there if anybody would like it. Excellent book. So 2011, we've seen a lot of changes and stuff. If you went back and redid it, what would you change about stand-up paddling and what you say about it now?
Well, most of the information is just out of date now. It's been 10 years and the sport's grown quite a bit, and gears has changed. techniques have improved. At the time, there was actually very little instruction at the time, and we were all making it up at, how to paddle. Uh, Equipment back then was mostly surf style boards. Race boards hadn't really developed. The culture hadn't really developed much. So a lot's changed, obviously. And what I don't know if it used to be considered the fastest growing water sport. So during that first few years of it blowing up, that the book came out in the middle of that. So and also a lot of people thought the book should have been colored, but we didn't have to get any control over that. That's an expense issue.
Yeah.
But I was just updating techniques mostly. So
Yeah.
and terminology, we don't call a lot of the same things the same thing anymore. So.
Well, and that's very interesting too, because some of our interviews have been with people who weren't water people, or probably I've had more kind of from the surf background. But speak a little bit to your water background, because I know you have a strong one. And then what hooked you on SUP? How'd you get into it?
I started out originally as kayaking, or even jokingly before that, I was a backpacker. I like backpacking down the Washington coast. And a friend of mine and I once were going up the Washington Coast Trail that's from La Push north of there. It's a very remote area, and we're backpackers, and we're trying to get to a campsite quickly, and before everyone else got. And we thought we got there, and we got around the corner, and we saw a bunch of people asleep with tents up, and they'd come in with sea kayaks. And I got me thinking, I'm not going to do this again. I'm going to do this with sea kayak. I almost blew my knee out that weekend, slipping off a rock with a backpack and all that. Like, there's got to be a better way to do this. So then I started getting into sea kayaking, which has a pretty strong culture up here in the Northwest.
Yeah.
Now it was about 99, 2000. So I started taking classes. I'm a slow learner, so it took me a long time to figure out how to roll and do all the technical stuff that we have to deal with and stuff. And then doing that, and I jumped into it. I was doing whitewater, surf kayak, touring, and all that sort of thing. And then around 2006, I began to see one or two people out on the water in Seattle on paddleboards. And it was just very
That
cute.
was early, really early, actually, because it was in
people,
Hawaii then. But
yeah, I mean, a lot of those people had lived in Hawaii and brought it back. The two people I knew, that was their case. A guy named Bob Smith. He's in that case, he lived there, brought it back. So again, immediately when I first saw it, I thought it looks kind of slow, that forward. And they're on 10-foot boards, and I'm on an 18-foot sea kayak blowing by. Like, why would you want to do that? But then in time, I kind of thought I'd try it out. One motivator was I got stuck upside down in a enclosed surf kayak, almost drowned. So I couldn't get my spray skirt off. Lost my paddle, and I was taking salt water. So after that point, I was looking for open deck methods of paddling or surfing. And that led to a wave ski, which is a sit on top, high performance surf kayak. And I cut the top off of my sea kayak. So now that's like a surf ski cockpit. Like, I just didn't see the purpose of being stuck in a boat. It didn't make any sense. And then SUP happened, and then I began to kind of see the benefit of that, and thought I'd give it a whirl. And knowing, 2006, 2007, there was no shops around here. There was no instruction. So I started applying sea kayak technique to SUP, and as I say, the rest of history at that point.
yeah. So did you also produce some books or pamphlets or something on sea kayaking also? Had you already been an author?
I'd written just articles. Sea Kayaking Magazine was around at that time. I was based in Seattle. That had since closed. Just articles, basically. I started guiding for a Seattle Rafting Kayak, a local shop that's now gone. So, I was doing some instruction and so on, but, that's about it.
Yeah. Well, you're very, very humble. Another aspect of everything that you do that I haven't mentioned is you're a great photographer. But I chuckle because we had a hard time getting a picture of you because you're usually behind the camera, I think.
Most photographers don't usually have good shots of themselves.
Well, we got to work on that. So
I did that for 23 years before, 2010 when I got on the paddleboard thing. So, and then I quit during the last recession because that entire business went belly up with the change in the business with digital photography, and I was doing stock photography at the time, and that entire industry went away. So I had to make a switch about that time. So
Yeah. Well, I do really enjoy your photography, and we'll again leave those links, but I know you have
yeah,
both Facebook and Instagram and other social media on your photography business, as well as Salmon Bay Paddle.
yeah.
So, Salmon Bay Paddle, how'd that get started? It really looks like a full service business in the paddle world.
Yeah, basically, yeah. I mean, again, that was the beginning. That was the end of my photo business. 2000, the recession, the last recession. Now we're in the next recession. The last recession, 2009-ish, that industry was going down the tube. Our sales were going down. Really hard to get work. Simon and stock side. And so I was getting burned out. I had done it since the early 90s. And just spinning my wheels. It's time for to look around for something new. I saw a window down in paddleboarding at the time had, at least in Seattle, had no instruction, no books. There was no structure at all, really. So I thought, oh, no, that maybe I could start teaching that. And so I started out doing one-on-one lessons. I just had a blog as my webpage, basically. I had one other board, basically, so as well as one-on-one class. So, and eventually I got 2 boards, 3 boards, etc. And began to figure it out. So that was 2010 when I officially started Salmon Bay. And just went from there. And I've always preferred small classes because I'm more of an introvert personality. And also when you get 10 or 15 people in the water, it's totally nuts. And the place we teach down here in our neighborhood of Ballard's got tidal current, waves, freshwater current, etc. So it's so it makes it easier to have small classes. So I kind of went with that and charging higher rates to compensate. But anyway, so that started off. It's a summer business mostly, even though many of us now are paddling all year long and have been for a long time. The market around here, unfortunately, the majority of the business is those 3 or 4 months out, providing we have a sunny day.
Yeah.
People are sensitive to the weather, so. So the trick is what to do in the off season. Around 2013, I helped start the Professional Stand-Up Paddle Association to help train and certify SUP instructors, which at the time was kind of a need for that. It's kind of fizzled out since. So that kind of helped me get some off-season business, so to try to find that balance.
Yeah.
And I try to do some, Hawaii surf camps and stuff like that, but logistically it's tough and just not worth the money in the long run. So to try to go in that off season.
Well, one thing that you do there that really fascinates me, just because I love that area but don't know it that well, are kind of the expedition type things. I think you do with kayak and with stand up. So maybe you could share a couple of the expedition style trips that you do in Washington or in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually a really hard sell. Overnight kayak trips sell very well. And I have a lot of friends who run businesses that do that up in the San Juans and elsewhere, and they have no problem booking classes. But doing that in SUP has always been a struggle. So I maybe do one trip. So it's the smoke and mirrors. It looks like I'm doing it, but
Those gorgeous pictures.
yeah, it makes sense. But the SUP crowd is different from the kayak crowd. They're more independent. They're less likely to want more instruction. They think it's easier, even though it is actually a little tougher in sea kayaking. We just sit down and go. And then from those, like in the San Juans, for example, you can put people in jeans into a double sea kayak and push them off. SUP's a different thing. You're going to get wet, and you can't be as casual as that. So we don't get a higher volume of people that want to go do that type of trip.
Well, we might have to change that for you because I think it's just been a long time coming. You are such an innovator, and you've just talked about a whole bunch of places where you were first on the scene. And I'm hearing a lot of people looking for that kind of thing. So maybe you will get more business in the summer because it is gorgeous up there in the Pacific Northwest.
But the other things I do that are more specific to, I won't say more or less specific to the Northwest, that are along those lines that I have developed and that are like our Deception Pass trips. So for learning how to paddle a river but in salt water, in tidal rapids. So Deception Pass is an hour and a half north of Seattle, no break required. Amazing spot, and it's basically a bottleneck, uh, kind of canyon between the north end of Whidbey Island and Fidalgo Island. And 4 times a day, 2 floods and 2 ebbs, the current surges through there and becomes whitewater. It actually becomes class 3 whitewater. And it builds up as tides do from slack, which is no current, up to max in 3 hours and tapering back off again. But long story is I do classes up there, and I'm the only, as far as I know, I'm the only SUP in this business that does stuff there. It's been popular kayaking for years.
That is so unique and so fascinating. I mean, to someone who
Yeah.
doesn't live there, that doesn't understand that tidal wash. And of course, again, the natural beauty there. And I asked you about, I'm a little bit whale obsessed.
Yeah.
In fact, you have a whale museum out there on one of the islands that I always adopt a whale when I get a new board, because my board are blackfish, the race board I choose. So I adopt a whale to name my board from your Washington area. So one of these days there's going to be some orcas in your paddle.
Yeah, and as I spoke with you before, if you want to see whales, don't hang out with me. I have a SUP. I mean, Dean Burke, one of our friends down in Tacoma, he sees them all the time down there, just because it is a more popular spot for the whales.
Yeah.
San Juan's, you see them, but here in like Seattle specifically, there is a viral video at Deception Pass of one of my previous Pasapa instructors who was at Deception Pass a day after we were there with the class. Our day, it was cloudy and rainy and whatnot. She was there a day after, it was sunny, and orcas went by 10 feet offshore. So
wow, which I think is fascinating. But you know what, Rob? Some people would rather be with you and probably would rather not see these beautiful, very large creatures that are carnivorous.
They're pretty smart animals, but but Deception Pass is an amazing spot. You know, and it's, some people see Scoop and Chalk up north, or that's that tidal rapid that gets up to 20 knots. That's actually worth googling up if you type in surf skook. Luke Foley's done it on a what do you call it, a foil years ago, before foil even took off. But it's a pretty, that wave can get up to 10 feet high at 20 knots. Moves very fast. So Deception Pass gets up to 9 knots in comparison. But we do get standing waves and in certain conditions, or progressive waves, which is what Hood River is, where waves are pushing upstream against the current. And kayakers have been surfing that for decades, and it's been a tough sell to get people up there, because they see the swirling waters and think they're going to go totally out of control there. But there is sense to it if you understand it. But the waves are pretty epic, though. So we can get up to 6 to 7 foot standing waves up there.
Wow.
Certain conditions, and it's kind of an untapped spot.
Yeah. So again, you have these very unique surf conditions that have a lot of pieces. And the other one you mentioned was actually off of a tanker. Wait, no, that's what he said. Not a tug.
So basically, when you live in Seattle, we're 80 miles from the closest coastal break. And that's the Strait of Juan de Fuca, where we surf. And that's hit and miss. That's the strait that separates Vancouver Island from the North Olympic Peninsula in Washington. The next coast out is another 45 minutes to an hour down to Westport or La Push or something. So that's 3 to 4 hours out for coastal, or what some people call real surf. So you live in Seattle, in our area, if you want to surf regularly, people do go out there weekly. We don't even think about it, but ultimately, you got a job, and whatnot. You don't have time to pop out to the coast all the time or move. There's not much out there if you want to move out there. So you compensate for what you have locally, and obviously downwinding's become a big thing, because you can downwind lakes in Ohio. You don't need to go to the coast to go surfing. So downwinding is pretty big here, and we have big lakes and Puget's down for that. But ultimately, you take advantage, if you love surfing, you take advantage of every type of surfing you can get on. So downwinding is a given in the SUP culture, which has been really big. The other is, freighters. And two friends of mine, Mark and Todd, we were in sea kayaks back in 2002-ish. cruising down the sound, and then suddenly here comes this wave that's 6-foot peeling wave. And like, where did that come from? We were perplexed because there was no boat around. And then over time, we realized that there's container ships moving at 17 to 23 knots in both directions in the sound, and the boats are gone before the wave hits us. So basically, people think when we say freighter surfing, we're with the boat.
Yeah.
But the boat is out in the shipping lanes, which is 3 miles.
Long gone, yeah.
So by the time the boat passes, let's say in our neighborhood of Ballard, West Point Lighthouse, it's gone out of sight. And then, but its wave takes 20 minutes to get to shore. And much like any normal surf break, you have point breaks, beach breaks, etc. And then those waves eventually hit that shore and develops like a normal coastal wave per se. So we have a spot in our neighborhood in Ballard. We're lucky that's our neighborhood, that it's actually one of the best waves on the sound, that we can get up to 5 to 6 foot waves, 200 to 300 yards offshore in certain tide levels. And we get epic rides off of it. And
super fun.
This week we had prone surfers out. We have a surf kayaker buddy who still comes out, one of the early guys, mostly SUP. 14 people in the lineup yesterday, 2 the day before. But anyway, long story, that's a spring through summer thing. We need daytime low tides at that break. Other breaks like the Indian surf break, high tide, low tide, all depends on that spot. And certain boats, we have boats on, we have a Wednesday, Friday boat and a Tuesday, Thursday boat, and everything in between. You just look at marine traffic in the morning, a nap, and then determine 5 hours for a boat from Cape Flattery down to Seattle. Then are you going to have a good tide that's going to match with that and pop out? So
wow, that is so informative. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kaha, I don't know who that is, but they said boogie boarders too.
Yeah. We
any
have,
kind of
probably John. Yeah, we have our local Hawaiian John Kwan who takes his boogie board out, and he does SUP as well. So it's a cool crowd, and it's a funny way because, you know, in traditional surf culture, you don't tell people about secret waves or whatever. And this one, I do teach people how to surf there, so I do promote it, but I'm careful about it. But at the same time, a lot of people don't believe it exists, and a lot of local surfers have never done it, and they're like, "Oh, that's BS. There's no way that wave could be good, or it's not worth my time." And that's fine with me. That's just less people in the water.
It sounds fun, and you said it's a pretty good long ride too.
We've been on it on days that are epic, where I've been on the Strait of Wanatuka over the weekend and got stumped, and I come home and 5 minutes from my house in Seattle, surf a better wave, you know. And you know, in sets, you can get stumped like any break. You can get one set off of a boat, or a boat can put on 45 minutes of waves. And you get 3 boats in a row, you're good to go. So a lot of guys pop down and just do it. Yeah. You know, you California style, surf for an hour and go home again. So, yeah.
But that is the ocean. So what you said about surf and like taking advantage of whatever there is, and your river and tidal bores and, you know, these waves off of container ships, that's amazing. But I think that's true. We've talked a lot about just water people in general. I mean, if you love being in or on the water, then you will take advantage of using whatever watercraft and whatever conditions there are to make the best of what you have where you are. Yeah.
Sounds good.
So you've done all these wonderful things in the Pacific Northwest. Have you had a chance to travel at all with stand-up paddling? And do you have some favorite spots maybe that you've traveled to?
Yeah, I'm pretty simple. I just, you know, stuck around here mostly. I mean, I've surfed in Hawaii, you know, here and there, but, you know, I did a surf camp with Robert Steelick out there several years ago. Blue Planet, but you know, if I go anywhere, it's going to be there. But generally, we just stick around here. I'm not getting rich being a paddleboard instructor, so
I know. Have you been out to Hood River? That's become kind of one of the iconic. Yeah.
But you know, it's like it's a 5-hour drive from here, and spot. Don't get me wrong. But by the time I get there, I could have had a good time out here doing the similar thing. So. I get there on occasion, but I'd rather personally, we have a family cabin on the Olympic Peninsula and the town of Port Angeles where there's good surfing. I'd rather go out there, get some peace and quiet, and get my own beaches to work with. So,
yeah. Well, I don't remember where we first met, but I know we had a lot of email exchanges when I used to be the executive director of the industry association. And you had some concerns having a background in the water about what, like you said, when you first started instructing, you couldn't find any place with certification. So I think it's fantastic that you used your knowledge and shared and developed your own association and your own, and have taught a lot of people through that. So, what were some of the things that really motivated you to do that? Like which pieces of it? Safety, I think of as something that you knew well and understood, especially from but you're the kayak and the surf side. You kind of saw both of those.
Yeah. I mean, the kayaking industry or the sea kayaking world is very safety based. So I came out of that where, I mean, I even critique them now where I see sea kayakers on our impeded sound on a flat, calm 80-degree day and they have a helmet on and a dry suit. So I'm like, oh, that's too much. But then people see me and I'm wearing a vest life jacket all the time. And they think I'm crazy and I'm too safe. So there's a balance in there. SUP industry started out being pretty loosey-goosey. PFDs and leashes for a long time. I was at Hood River the summer. Andre Pombo had his accident there, which is tragic. And even after the race continued, no one was still wearing, for the most part, was not wearing leashes and PFDs. So they hadn't learned their lesson yet. So it was kind of a struggle for us to come from a more safety-based sport and then into just whatever goes. And then now 10-ish years later, JC Suda and Jeremy Riggs and those folks are wearing PFDs on the Maliko run, which I've done, and that's a fun run. It's pretty cool to see that in Hawaii, where no one ever wore PFDs or even leashes for many years. Some people are learning, I think, unfortunately, trial by error. Long swims kind of teach you a thing or two. And not everyone's going to do it. Everyone's going to do what they're going to do, and there's the folks who don't want to be told what to do, or too much government or whatever. But for me, with PASAPA, starting that was through the kayaking world. The certifications like ACA and BCU were the popular certifications. I thought they were too rigid. I mean, safety is great, but they were telling you how to put your hand on the paddle, and you can't pass. I won't say which one, but you can't pass a certain one of the certifications unless you can paddle a perfect circle with your hand, with their version of a forward stroke. You had to use the version, not whatever works for you. And to me, I come, whether it's my artist background or whatever, I believe there's different ways of holding a paddle and different ways of paddling straight or doing certain techniques. And then when I teach that as well, it's the same. It's like, that doesn't work for you, here's another way, So PASAPA was partially grown, from my opinion, about creating a less rigid certification that's more fun. I actually was turned away from those, or turned off of those certifications because I just thought they were too rigid and not realistic, and not really realistic to teaching either, or running a business for that matter. And those certifications were also not teaching business either. It was just about paddling, not how do you start a business. So I also do SUP or paddle sports business consulting on the side to help people start businesses and hopefully, avoid a lot of those mistakes I and others have made down the road. I've seen a lot of businesses start and stop because they got too big too quick or what have you. So, and this summer is not a good time to start a business. The COVID thing going on and limited groups. I had someone who inquired to me about that, and I'm like, it's not a good year to start a business right now in this industry. And people are all stoked and they want to do it, but they just don't go there. So PASAPA, we didn't see other certifications covering business. So we had a business manual, or they do. I did get rid of the organization last year. It was tapering off.
I think it's the DeVores. She might even be on, Julie.
Julie and Kurt DeVore.
Yeah.
They're ex-Northwest sites. And they're expats now down in Mexico, our folks. So they're running it, and they're doing it in their own way, and they've grown it since I've had it. But the first few years, it was firing. We had tons of members and tons of instruction, and then in the last few years, it tapered off.
Yeah. So, well, there have been some we had that crazy exponential growth in many aspects of stand-up paddling, both the business sides, the industry, and the number of people coming in. And like everything else, exponential growth doesn't go on forever, and definitely leveling. And then there have been, of course, some interesting things like this in crazy year and things that go on. But we have seen
certification programs now too, so it's more competition for that type.
Yeah.
Of yeah.
But I think there's still such a need for it, and I think it's fantastic that you did that. And I think because of that, you reach more people. I mean, there's plenty of people teaching with no certification.
Yeah.
I'd rather see them have
Yeah.
any certification. And I love the things that you based it on, things like having more fun, not as rigid, but still having that all important safety component and having the business component. So, again, you guys who did these things, we're still early in stand-up paddling, and we're still figuring things out. And so whenever anybody says the one way is the right way, I think we're still just in the early days. But you're going to be in the history books, Rob Casey. Yeah, just like the proper stroke.
I don't believe there's, there are some things are proper, but not everything's proper. It's your way.
Well, I've been racing for 10 years now, and I still keep learning. And I love having my bag of tricks of different types of strokes just for me, even having a certain body type and all. But I still, in a race, sometimes because of conditions, because of how my body's reacting, I need to switch up my strokes. So, who's to say? But all, I think, still very fascinating and such a great learning curve. So thank you for helping to get people into that. So racing, you actually have some race leagues. Unfortunately, again, we're in this weird time that most things have had to cancel. And I think I saw on your website, you had to cancel your race leagues too, but that's fun. And it sounds like, is that all watercraft or mix it up?
I believe with most, so about, I think it was about 8 years ago, my partner, Kristin, and I started a race through Salmon Bay, my business, on Social Bay, our main bay out here. And it started out literally with 2 people, with 2 or 3 people, or it was just me and one other person, and that's a race. And eventually, as racing built up, as well as the popularity of that race, up until maybe 3 years ago, we had 50 people in the lineup, starting out, beach start or water start. But it was mostly SUP, because that's my connections. It was always open to all craft. But then as SUP started doing more buoy turns, which SUP love to do, surf ski, OC can't really pull that off very well. So we get a few skis in there, maybe one OC, maybe a sea kayak, or I'll do sea kayak. The guitar standing up all week long. It's like I froze there. And I'm not sure if my video's still going.
Your video's frozen, but I can still hear you. So it will hopefully come back to us. I see the little guy spinning. There you go. Or do we have you again?
Okay, still froze there or something.
Okay.
I ignore my still video. So basically, we have an Elks Club on the beach. It's called the Ballard Elks Club, and many of us never thought we'd ever join the Elks Club. You think of old guys in funny hats and so on. But this Elks, like Honolulu Elks, is in a pretty epic spot, and it's got a deck overlooking the water of where we paddle in a nice beach. There's a guy named Sean Jennings early on who got me into the Elks. He was kind of a good hip guy. We had a little SUP rental down there, and he got me in there, and then we realized it's kind of cool. It's not just old guys or in a bar, basically, which is what Elks are. But basically, it's doing events for charity. It's all charity based. So myself and a few others started the Ballard Elks Paddling Club after we became members, and suddenly we got 60. Actually, right now we have 60 members of the paddling club.
Wow.
We have board storage. You're trying to get kayak storage, doing politics at the Elks are trying to get horizontal storage going, and maybe OCs ideally. But long story, I think it's 2 or 3 years ago, Kristin and I got tired of doing our Monday night races, which is every Monday. We charge $5 a head. It's all for charity for a vocational scholarship fund. So we gave the race to the Elks Paddling Club. So now we're this year, unfortunately, we're not doing it until we get to but that's been a super successful race, about $4,000 every summer. Cavu, who's my hat, is a local clothing manufacturer. They gave us prize awards, which is a lot of free clothing at the end of the year. So that's been a real successful race, super fun. It's all and then I've done other races over the years, and this year I began to realize through a friend of mine, Patrick Hong, who gave me a tip, that there was a former Seattle, mostly OC race that hasn't gone on for several years in the wintertime, January, February, March. And I decided to revive that race. And so we did two until COVID, had to cancel.
So what are you calling that one, or what is it called?
That's called the Seattle Race Series.
Okay.
And that's 8 miles from Aqua Verde Paddle Club. And this is through the inner city waterway in downtown Seattle. Aqua Verde Paddle Club out to Ballard, thereabouts, and back is 8 miles.
Very cool.
The first race we did, I think it was January 25th. We had, I think 60 some people, all craft, a lot of OCs and surf skis, mostly coming down who wanted that race to come back. And as a result, my site started blowing up with traffic, and I never get business in January and February. And I'm getting business. So that actually worked out pretty great. February we did another race, same thing. March was going to be bigger, but we had to cancel. So I put on other races. I took over a race it used to be called the Deception Pass Dash, and that's through Deception Pass through Tidal Rapids. And it's
cool.
For a decade, all craft. And I took it over to last year. Basically, we changed the name to Deception Pass Challenge. So we are scheduled for December 5th for that. Fingers crossed we can do something. We should be.
That sounds like a destination event to me, because I'm fascinated by the Deception Pass and the title and everything. So to say, what a great challenge to go up to a beautiful area like yours, do that. Maybe the 8 mile, well, that's at a different time of the year, but.
It's an epic race. It's a beautiful location. If you look it up, it's just amazing. Treetop cliffs, very northwest. It looks like Southeast Alaska up there. Amazing spot with ripping water, and then the challenge of having to get upstream before the current traps you, basically. So there's a separate trick to the race, basically.
Yeah.
And local Bill Walker used to run it. They used to get 200 people in the race, which I think is nuts. So I capped off at 100, as that's all I want to do. And from a permit standpoint and all that, but so fingers crossed we can do that this year, at least to a limited group.
That sounds amazing. Yeah. Well, it's been so great talking with you. Before we wrap up, I want to get kind of some tips from you, maybe on just like a top 3 of how to get started. Supconnect has a lot of followers who are just getting started in stand-up paddling, and you named a lot of different kinds, and maybe a little bit about, you did talk about a lot of types of paddling, but if you have any equipment, maybe suggestions too. But what about getting started? Your advice?
Just for here, basically, or how to get started? Or?
SUP in general, yeah.
Well, I would say if you can, take a lesson. I mean, not everyone wants to take a lesson. That's fine. Most of my students are women, 95%, because the men just don't think they need it. But whatever works for you. But basically, I would say if you can, take a lesson from a good instructor with good reputation. I can save a lot of people a lot of time. I was struggling to get to a certain point, particularly beginners. We have a lot of good techniques for helping people stand up who previously did not stand up. Maybe they're rented and struggled to stand up. I struggled to stand up. I'm traditionally not that really athletic at all. And I had to work pretty hard at, learning all that stuff. So, and I'm big, I'm 6'5", 220. So my first day up on the board, Hawaii in 2007, was on a tiny board, and I never stood up. So I learned how not to teach. I'm that person at a hotel. But basically, basically, good instructor can save you a lot of time. I can get 99% people standing up. I've worked with people who are 400 pounds, 300 pounds, and got them up and through Deception Pass, and surfing and doing other things. And then also, wearing a leash and a life jacket, whether you have a CO2 or vest. But I think beginners should wear a vest. Because I see a lot of people hit the water and they kind of flip out. And for me, I'm glad that they got a vest on. A lot of people want to get into sport and don't know how to swim. So that's interesting. So we have to
that
deal
is
with,
a
you
yeah.
know, when they get the water, they don't know how to swim. So got a vest on. I don't have to worry about it. So, but and wearing a leash so you don't get separated from the board. A lot of people had long swims back, and it's not worth it. There's a lot of controversy on the leash, so we won't go down that path. But that's my 2 cents.
The appropriate leash for the water that you're on, yeah, for the
Yeah,
conditions, I guess.
yeah, 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 exactly. It just
Yeah.
kind of off the board takes off. You should know how to swim and get to it, but not everyone has the time to be a in-channel swimmer out here. So, and then wearing the right clothing for the temps.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's June, but our water it's warming up here, but it's still chilly. And yesterday out freighter surfing, everyone who kind of knew what they're doing had some sort of neoprene on, whether it's a top or bottom or a full suit. Beginners showing up were shorts, and you could tell they didn't want to get wet, so they're limiting
Yeah.
themselves. Fun. So put the suit on, you can jump in and float around and have fun.
Plan
So
to, yeah, because you do have some icy water and hypothermia,
yeah,
important stuff. Yeah. How
you
about
can enjoy.
yeah, common mistakes or things to avoid, kind of in that same frame when you're getting
Yeah, I think
going?
like I say, wearing the safety stuff, leash and PFD. Just you don't want to be swimming for that board if you don't need to be. I think you know, be willing to go out all year long. It's not just a summer sport. We paddle all year long. We paddle when it's snowing. It's super fun when it's snowing. Um, you know, don't be afraid of wind and waves. The first thing I tell my beginners is we're going to go upwind, show you how to paddle upwind, and then we're going to take the free ride down with the wind at our backs. So now you see the benefit of wind. It's not a bad thing. A lot of people are scared of waves. They turn 90 degrees into a wave. You don't need to do that. You're on a surfboard. Bend your knees and just keep paddling, or turn around and surf the wave. You know, enjoy the wave. You know, I think you know, having the paddle in the right direction, and that is one of
Most common.
the things. The scoop is the part of the paddle, not the backside. We don't eat our spoon with the backside of our spoon. You know, so I'd say that, and anyone can do it. A lot of people prevent themselves from learning to SUP because they think they have to be in shape to do it. It's all the photos are all these, you know, six-pack ab folks and super ripped, you know, physical folks and the magazines, and they think, oh, you have to be in shape. And I've had students who did not sign up for several years. They thought they had to get in shape to go paddling, but paddling will get you in shape.
I think that's unfortunate, yes, but
Yeah,
it can be for everyone, and it's
pretty
too
fun.
bad that we show too many of those elite end of that. But it
Yeah.
can also be a great health benefit too, and
And as a
get you in
result,
shape. Yeah.
you know, I wasn't traditionally an athletic person, and it helped me get in better shape. I hated the gym and repetition type things like that, and so here's an opportunity to go get in shape. Where my instructor is Joe McCluskey, was a former high school teacher, was a smoker, was in bad shape, and he's actually one of my first students. And a year or two later, I saw him he's still on his Bark Dominator, bombing down our social marina, and I didn't even recognize him, and someone said that was Joe, and he was six-pack dab and all that. He turned
Wow.
into he's now a fitness trainer. So it
How about that?
changed his life. No, so
Yeah. Well, you've named a lot of great things about SUP, but stand-up paddling, I mean, I know you're even bigger than stand-up and do kayak and everything, but what's your favorite part, or what do you think's the best of the many different things that are good about SUP?
I think for me, it's just you know, having a local access to something. I mean, if you have water. So for me, I love the freighter surfing as much as I like coastal surfing, but you just can't get out there. I already have a boat coming now in an hour and a half.
Okay, cool.
Down. I've been tracking it. And tide's right. I'm going to go surf, you know, suit up and head out after this. And I can do that. So, when the boat's gone, I can paddle around, and we have a nice low tide this summer, or this week, sorry. So you can paddle around in 2 feet water and see all the Dungeness crab below you and all the stuff, you know, the sea life and tidal pools and stuff. So that type of access is nice. And
Yeah.
to get out of the city quickly and get your downtime, and not, you know, versus, you know, a running trail where there's always, you know, everyone's masked or not masked, and you can get out there quick and get a pretty quick escape. So
Yeah. So it is a quick escape. Well, thank you so much, Rob, for joining me today. And Supconnect, thank you. And what a great resource. We'll be sure to put all those links in the Supconnect live discussions Facebook group so that if you need or want to get a hold of Rob or his book, or you're up in the Pacific Northwest or need advice, he's the man.
Right. Yeah, thanks for your time. So
yeah.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Great.
All right.
Take care.
Yeah, see you.